Welcome to the source. The source. Source. Hey, get the source.
Good morning. Hope you all enjoyed your holiday yesterday. Hope everyone, wow, hold on. Had to mute my headphones. Hope everyone enjoyed their holiday. Hope you won some bets. As I'm sure you saw in the video I uploaded, it was a good day for me. I went 4-0 on Thanksgiving Day NFL. I should have bet the Cowboys too. Should have been 5-0, but I didn't. I was too scared to lay 3.5 with that team. It was a great Thanksgiving. Not feeling too hot right now. You know, when I'm 36 now, I think it's not the alcohol anymore. It's the food. It's the food that makes me feel like shit the next day. Like, my body's just not built to eat like that. And I even was responsible. I noticed some growth. So I had a very reasonably sized plate. Didn't go crazy. Didn't eat any rolls. And I was like, hell, this is fine. But then the desserts will just do you in. And you're just not supposed to be eating like blueberry pie, cream puffs, and icebox cake. Like, you're not supposed to do that. So, yeah, I feel like death right now. My nose is stuffy. But it's Thanksgiving weekend, which means nonstop football. You can't, if you want to cover football for a living, you have to work Thanksgiving weekend. That's just how it works. You can't pursue a career covering football and not work Thanksgiving weekend. This is the life we chose. So let's get into it. Andy, how was your Thanksgiving, by the way?
Oh, it was fantastic.
Did the girl
yesterday had fun, went to 2 dinners, so I did not get to be light on food, so it was good.
You did the girlfriend thing, right?
Yep, family and then girlfriend. That's 2 dinners. I was fat as hell last night.
Yeah, I could tell. I could see it coming through your pores. All right. College basketball's last. All right. So, Miami of Ohio, Bowling Green. This is an awesome game. Like, game of the year here in terms of the MAC conference. Problem is, at this line, it's so coin flippy, and there's a lot of moving parts here. So, I do have a bet in the game. I got Miami of Ohio at +3. I'm kind of just tailing. I don't want to say tailing because I agree. People in the Discord like it. Wags is on this, a bunch of people. So we kind of jumped on Miami of Ohio +3 like as a group effort. But I am in. I have Miami of Ohio at +3. And the reason that, all right, so like I said, there's moving parts here. Both of these offenses have quarterbacks. Both of these offenses like to throw the ball. So we got 2 passing offenses, 2 quarterbacks I trust, 2 solid pass defenses, and 20 to 25 mile an hour winds. It's just, you have 2 offenses trying to throw the ball. We're looking at winds north of 20 miles an hour and 2 defenses that are solid against the pass. So there's a lot of moving parts here. Like I said, Miami of Ohio's defense is better than Bowling Green's, but the weakness of the Bowling Green defense is stopping the run, and Miami of Ohio really doesn't run the ball like that. They're trying to throw the ball. So I don't think if you can get a +3, maybe rock with it. That's what I got. Miami of Ohio +3 at +2.5 with all the moving factors. I would say that's such a coin flip. So I bet Miami of Ohio +3. It's not one of my bigger bets or anything, but I do have some money on it.
I was really wanted to go over. When you look at the offenses, it feels like it should be an over game, right? You look at the line, like these 2 teams should score more than 40 points. Their offenses are both pass heavy, which means the clock's going to be stopping a lot. They're both very good at it, but unfortunately, both teams have really good pass defenses, so I couldn't go over. I just leaned with Bowling Green. What's up, Boise State? I leaned with Bowling Green. I've loved this team all year. I had them winning the MAC earlier on in the season when we did our previews, and they've had a few lumps, but you look at earlier in the season, they were playing close games with really good teams, and they kind of carried it into MAC play. But again, everybody has their bumps throughout the way. But for me, it's more Miami of Ohio is having some success on offense through the air, which is what Bowling Green wants to stop, right? They're really good at stopping the pass. But those games are against Northern Illinois. They're against Kent State, Eastern Michigan. Like, some of these games are against really bad teams with bad pass defenses, bad defenses overall. Bowling Green's much better than all those teams, so I think that they can carry their defensive success over Miami of Ohio. I think they'll struggle a little bit, and I think we'll get Bowling Green, especially with the win, too, at home in that environment. I think I'd lean the home team in that place. So, Bowling Green.
So you'd lean incorrectly. Next.
Yeah.
Next up, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and I think this is my sucker bet of the day. I am not confident at all in my bet, and this is not a lean. I actually have money on this, and I hate it. So I bet Wisconsin early in the week. I got it at -1.5. Right after I bet it, like 6 hours later, it was at -2.5. So I was like, nice. I'm in there. Like CLV King is back. Like feeling really good about it. Since then, it has completely swung the other way. Wisconsin is now catching a 1.5 at home here. And from what I'm hearing, it's not a good situation in Wisconsin. Someone was saying in the Discord, someone who lives in Wisconsin and is a Badger fan, that there's talks that these players don't even want to win because they don't even want to play in a bowl game and they want the season to be over. Apparently, the vibes are not very high in Wisconsin, and maybe that's what's causing the line movement. I think, let me put it this way. If Wisconsin cares and wants to win this game, I think they should be laying 3 here at home. There's a big if at the beginning of that sentence. If Wisconsin cares and we get 100% Wisconsin effort here at home against Minnesota, I think Wisconsin should be laying 3. So my bet theoretically should have value at -1.5 if Wisconsin cares and wants to win this game. But like I said, apparently from what I'm hearing, that is a big if. I like Wisconsin to be able to run the ball, even though Minnesota's defensive front has been tough against the run. Wisconsin has shown us they can run the ball in even top 25 defensive fronts. So I think once Wisconsin can run the ball, Minnesota doesn't have the best pass rush. Braden Locke has shown us that he can make throws as long as you give him a clean pocket. So I like the matchup. I feel like I'm getting the better team at home at less than a field goal, which should be a profitable bet to make long term. But yeah, the extra bullshit going on with Wisconsin and the drama is making me think I'm on the wrong side of this. So I do have money on this game. I'm not overly confident about it.
Yeah, I don't have the bet down, but Wisconsin was my pick throughout the whole week. But I mean, you do hear about negative things, and I think that at this point, Wisconsin thought they were going to be in a much better place with Luke Fickell. So that definitely there's some heat there for sure. Which you never want to hear that. So from a pure football standpoint, everything kind of points to Wisconsin, right? Braden Locke at home, they've been fine. They've had some decent games. I mean, last week they actually played a pretty good offensive game. They just didn't win. They got blown out actually, but that was more their defense got roasted by Nebraska. In this one, it's also Brosmer on the road. We've talked about it all year. The dude can't play away from home. I mean, it literally can't do it. So from a pure football standpoint, I would take Wisconsin, but I'd be a little weary because, again, you said it. They don't – I'm not going to say they don't want to play in a bowl. There are guys on that team that probably do. But some of the more impact players might just want to leave, might just want to enter the transfer portal, might just want this thing to end. Portal opens, I think, after the conference championship. So maybe they just want this to end so they can leave. So, yeah, I would lean Wisconsin from a pure football standpoint, but I wouldn't personally bet it at this point because I have no idea where those guys' headspace is.
Yeah, and I mean, clearly the market's moving this. So it's not, I'm not just spewing bullshit here. I don't know for a fact. I don't personally know any of this, but the market has moved dramatically. Wisconsin was up to 2.5, and now you can get +1.5. That's a serious movement from -2.5 to +1.5. So especially in a Big Ten game, Big Ten West game, 41 total. So I don't know. I bet Wisconsin don't love it. Next up, Oregon State, Boise State. I'm actually taking a piss break real quick. Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, I personally think that there is no team in college football this week well, maybe there are tomorrow. We'll talk about, but this team today is in the biggest look-ahead spot imaginable. Boise State is in the perfect situation. It feels like for them, they're in the playoff right now. I believe they're the 4 seed. They would be in. They would have a bye. They'd have to play Ohio State, unfortunately, but they'd have a bye first. And all they got to do is win the next 2 games. And their next games against UNLV, the team that came closest to beating them. Therefore, you have them looking ahead to next week with the Mountain West Championship game. And they have a team that, while Oregon State, statistically, their record, pretty much everything, even the line tells you they're a bad football team. They are, but they have matchups that are actually favor them in this game. Boise State, they've had a running quarterback issue all year. Brendan Lewis, the numbers in that game, it says 10 rushes, 32 yards. He got sacked a couple times, which ruined his numbers. That's the quarterback for Nevada. And then earlier in the year, we saw it with UNLV. They ran all over him too. That's a problem. If they can't stop running quarterbacks, McCoy on Oregon State can run, and that's really the only way he can get anything done. That's the only way he can make any plays is he can run the football, scramble, make plays. We've seen that with a couple of teams. LSU has that issue. They can't stop running quarterbacks. If Boise State can't stop the running quarterback, long drives are going to happen. Getting off the field on third down is going to be a problem. I think that that's going to happen for Boise State. I know it's a home game. I know it's on the blue turf. I know the crowd will probably be rocking, but there is no team in college football looking ahead more than Boise State this week. So I think it is a 2-touchdown, maybe even a 10-point game here. Oregon State, it's been a bad season for them. They had a terrible offseason too. They lost their conference, right? Everything. This would be a perfect way to wrap up their season with an upset over Boise State. Not saying they're going to win the game, but I think they'll play a close one. So I'm on Oregon State.
I don't necessarily disagree. I caught the tail end of that, but we were talking about this game earlier. I don't necessarily disagree with you. What about this? So I was circling under 57.5. I was circling Oregon State plus 18. I don't have a bet in this game, but I think I might place this right here. Ready? Where's 1 second? Let me find it. Let me do a control F. Boise State team total under 37.5. Dude. 37.5, Oregon State. Now, earlier in the season, Oregon State was a terrible run defense. So if you look at their full season numbers, you're going to be like, oh my God, this is a beautiful matchup for Boise State at home. If you look at the full season numbers. But Oregon State's defensive front seems to have gotten their shit together a little bit. In their last 4 games, 3.7 yards per carry allowed, 3.8 yards per carry allowed, 4.2 yards per carry allowed. The defensive front is playing better than it was earlier in the season. Oregon State's not a good defense. I think I might bet that, honestly. I don't have a ton of action open today. I think I have like 5 or 6 bets. I'm going to write that down. I might add this. As of right now, I don't have this, but...
You will see in the underdog that I did later, this is Ashton Genty's last shot, so I do think he'll be running the ball like 30 times today plus. So I think that the only way that I think they don't cover this spread, they cover this spread, they just hand the ball off to Ashton Genty every single play so he can get his Heisman stats up and have his last shot. I don't think that that's necessarily a reason to when you cap the game, but if you're looking at props, I think Ashton Genty to go over, I think it's 189.5. I know it's a lot. I think that could be something because I think they're going to feed him everything. They want his stats to be juiced to see if he can get a shot to win the Heisman. So.
I missed the beginning. Do you bet this Oregon State plus 18? Or are you just leaning this way?
Not yet, but I would lean this. I would lean this way, and I might bet it before because I don't have a lot yet. I think I only have 2 so far actually bet. So I might. You know what? I'll place this one.
Yeah, you know what? I'm down. Let's do Oregon State plus 18. I'll do it with you. Screw that team total over. Let's go. Beavers up.
Yeah,
I'll do that with you.
I only have, I think, 2 at the moment, and I think we are completely opposed. It's the next game. You didn't post it, but I think from the video that you had, completely opposed to you.
Oklahoma State, Colorado?
Yeah.
You like the under?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Why?
Oklahoma State's not going into Folsom on a pissed-off Colorado team and putting up more than 14 today.
Oh, my God. You don't know Gundy. Just tell us you don't know shit about Gundy without telling us you don't know shit about Gundy. All right, go ahead. You're on the under? Terrible bet.
I have the under at 65.5, I think it was. It's now 66, so it's going up. But no.
Of course it is, because you're wrong.
I don't think it's going to contribute to this total much at all. Look, Colorado defensively, you can say, they've had their issues. They have one of the best corners in the country. Obviously, they have a decent secondary. They've been fine, but this is more just spot for me. Colorado blew their season last week. They had a shot to go to the playoff. They blew it. I mean, technically, they can still go to the Big 12 championship, but the shot that's actually going to happen is very low. But there's no team more pissed off this week. There is no team that needs a good performance, that can have a good performance, and it's Oklahoma State, who had a complete opposite season that we expected. They're playing basically all young guys at this point. I don't see a way that they can contribute and score in this game. Plus, it's on the road at Folsom, so I don't think that Oklahoma State's going to. Now, I think Colorado could score 35-42, but I don't think that you're getting much out of Oklahoma State at all offensively today.
I don't think I could disagree more.
Okay.
I don't think. Did you not see what Gundy did at BYU?
Yes, but that was weeks ago, dude.
So
and that was a game in which they had one. That was the first game of Ringel or Ring, whatever his name was, and then it was Bowman came in off the bench out of nowhere, and we got an amazing Bowman performance.
Okay.
Right? That's a complete. This is not that situation at all.
I don't know.
All right.
I think Gundy is going to come in here, and Gundy. Oklahoma State could score. Not to mention Ollie Gordon got going last week. If you're saying, oh, this team has quit, if you're saying, oh, this team has quit on Mike Gundy, they're coming off their best offensive performance of the year. I don't know much about this new quarterback, though, admittedly, this freshman. But, I mean, put up a great stat line last week against Texas Tech, 316 yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't know much about him, but I would lean over. You actually bet yours, and I didn't. So, all right, let's move on. Now we get to my biggest bet of the day, but it's almost my biggest bet of the day by accident. So this is how crazy Thanksgiving week is. There's so much to do in such a short period of time. So I was posting my ticket and going through my on the open bets thing. You could see all the bets I've placed, whatever. I was going through that last night, and I noticed EC was on there twice, and I literally went back and looked at my slips. I accidentally bet ECU twice. So I bet East Carolina at open at +1.5. Completely forgot about it. Then bet ECU again at -2.5 a few days later. So I'm actually holding an ECU +1.5 ticket for a full unit and an ECU -2.5 ticket for a full unit. I'm on ECU twice. I do like the bet, so whatever. I wouldn't have put 2 units on it, but so this is my biggest bet because I'm an idiot and unorganized and accidentally bet this shit twice. So yeah, I have ECU and under a field goal, and I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory here. I mean, this is at 3 now. I think Navy's quarterback, has Horvath been ruled out, right? Can you check that for me? I'm pretty sure he has. Just waiting on Andy to give us the update.
Nope, he's out.
Yeah, Horvath's out. So obviously the ticket's holding value. Does that mean it's definitely going to win? Of course not. Quarterback for Navy is out. But very simply put, if you look at the full season numbers, if you handicap this game using nothing but the full season numbers, you're going to look at it and be like, oh, Navy plus points, you got to take Navy. But if you just isolate it to the last 5 games, maybe, since ECU has made the quarterback change and since Navy's offense fell off a fucking cliff, the fact that you got this under a field goal is crazy. ECU, since making the switch over to Caden Hauser at quarterback, has turned it from a bad offense into an extremely explosive offense. Now, is he turnover prone? Of course he is. But this offense is completely different than the offense we saw from ECU in the first 6 games of the season. The first 6 games of the season for ECU, before they made the quarterback change, are completely irrelevant to this handicap because this kid, Hauser, just completely changed the entire offense. So if we're just using the last 5 games, just because that's the sample size we have of this new East Carolina offense, yeah, they're going to score on Navy at home, too. And being at home is what definitely made me place the bet. Not so much offensively, but dating back multiple years. If you subscribe to this channel, you've heard me say this several times. ECU, I don't know why. I don't understand it, but for whatever reason, they just play really good defense at home. Like I said, that dates back multiple years. This year, it's no different. I think they're allowing 37 points per game on the road. It's like 20.2 at home. It's night and day difference. For whatever reason, this defensive front specifically, no one is able to generate push on this defensive line in the stadium. I don't really know why. But for whatever reason, ECU's defense at home always seems to show up. I've seen them shut down NC State with Devin Leary went in there. That NC State team had a lot of talent. Came in there. I think they held NC State to 20 points. So this defense is a different animal at home. Navy's offense has fallen off a cliff. Now that, honestly, if you could only get a 3 right now, I'd still take it. I think ECU might blow them out. But yeah, I'm on ECU +1.5 and ECU -2.5. I'm on ECU twice.
Yeah, you talk about 2 teams that are on opposite trends. Obviously, I think ECU made maybe the savviest move a team has made in season in a long time. When they fired Mike Houston, they knew what they were doing. They knew the schedule coming up. They fired him after they lost to Army, which usually if you lose to Army was ranked when they won that game. Why would you fire your coach if you lose to Army? Well, they knew they had Temple, FAU, Tulsa, and North Texas on deck. They've won all 4. Now they're going to a bowl game. They're playing hot football. While our Navy, since the Notre Dame game, has been a complete shell of what they were. Now they don't have their quarterback. Their offense is nowhere near as good. I'm all over ECU here. I was confused by the line when it was 1.5 or whatever. I'm confused by it now. I think ECU is like 5, 6, 7 points better, maybe a full touchdown there. Like Navy has been borderline unwatchable on offense since that Notre Dame game. That was pretty predictable. But even against like South Florida, they didn't even play that well. South Florida was just not good. They've had games like I think they played Tulane, right? Tulane, like their offense is awful. This offense has just been a shell. So yeah, I'm on ECU. I think they could win this one by a lot.
People are in the comments are teasing the line. Someone's saying ECU minus 5.5. Pony Morris is saying ECU minus 7.5. Maine is saying ECU minus 12.5. I honestly, if I didn't have 2 units on this game already, I might be down to throw something like that down, do some gambling, have some fun, because I do think that it's very possible ECU blows them out. So yeah, I'm on ECU. Next. What's next? Liberty Sam Houston. Tell me this wasn't the hardest game on the board to handicap.
I actually think it's not. I think.
What are you on? Do you have a bet?
I think Liberty's going to beat them bad. This is the one that I think Liberty's going to beat them up. Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong, but I think they are too.
Remember when we were doing the Conference USA games? I think the week we stopped, right? We stopped doing them because they moved to weekends. Yes. Like right after that Western Kentucky game for Sam Houston. Jace Bauer played. It was awful. They were terrible. Pretty much overall, that game was like the last time they scored 2 touchdowns in the game, I think. They went from averaging 31 points per, this is Sam Houston. They went from averaging 31.3 points per game to averaging, let me pull it up, I have the graphic, 13.3. They've gone down 18 points per game since week 9. They've been an awful offense, while Liberty, pretty much since that Kennesaw game, they played a couple close ones, but they've kind of cruised, done what they usually do. They're Liberty. We know what they want to do. I think if it weren't for that one game, we'd unfortunately probably have to hear about them in college football playoff talk right now. But luckily they lost that game, so we don't have to hear about it. But yeah, I think Liberty's just going to continue doing what they're doing, which is cruising on offense. Been a fine defense, but Sam Houston's been a shell of what they were earlier in the year. They got us our over on the season win total, and then they just stopped playing football. They've been unable to do everything. So yeah, I think Liberty's gonna smoke them here.
I agree, but Proppy, can you put up for me? You're gonna have to type it. Sam Houston State team total under. I believe it's at 22.5. It's SHSU. Yep. So what Andy said is spot on about Sam Houston State's offense. This is why this game is so hard to handicap. Both of these teams have done complete 180 transformations throughout the season. Early on, Liberty's offense wasn't really functioning properly with Cooley and Salter. Their defense was winning them games. That's how Liberty was undefeated after however many games. Their defense was playing pretty well and winning them games. Well, actually, the Liberty offense seems to have figured their shit out. They're averaging, I think, like 6.5 yards per carry in their last 3 or something crazy like that. So Liberty's offense seems to have figured it out. And now I don't really know if I trust the Liberty defense much. So Liberty, complete 180 flip. And then on the other side, Andy already talked about it. There was a stretch of 4 or 5 games where Sam Houston State was averaging 40 points per game. In their last 5, hold on, I have it written down, and I think Andy mentioned something like this. In their last 5 games, they're averaging 13.4 points per game, 4.5 yards per play. That is terrible. This Sam Houston State offense has fallen off a cliff. But you know what? The Sam Houston State defense has stepped up a little bit. So I think this is the way to go here. Sam Houston State team total under 22.5, 23. Some people in the Discord like Sam Houston State plus the points here. If I'm being honest, Shipley is one of those people, and I think he's just fading Liberty. I don't know if he really likes Sam Houston State as much as he's just saying fuck Liberty type of thing. So yeah, Sam Houston State team total. I'm gonna write that down too. God damn it, I kind of like it. Don't you think that hits?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be dare I say dog walking.
A dog walking? I think Liberty's going to beat them up too. Yeah. But honestly, Sam Houston State's defense hasn't been all that bad. So the reason I said team total under instead of Liberty, I also think there's a path to Salter and Cooley to Liberty struggling offensively in this game. So Sam Houston State team total under or Liberty is the way I'd go. Next up. Egg Bowl. So last year, okay, so obviously the Egg Bowl, huge rivalry game, right? Last year I took Mississippi State plus 10.5. It landed on 10. and I got the win. And I believe I gave some sort of speech. I'm sure it was really compelling about how the Egg Bowl is this rivalry and like you shouldn't be double-digit points and blah, blah, blah. You got to take the points here. And I'm sure it was really riveting. It hit. I don't have it in me to give the same sort of speech in this one. The gap between these two programs this year, it's insane. I mean, we're talking about a Mississippi State defense that not only doesn't belong in the SEC, I swear to God, if you threw Mississippi State in, let's say, Conference USA, I don't even know if I'd say it's the best defense in there. Like, I swear to God, Mississippi State's defense is so far below SEC level that theoretically, Ole Miss should be able to score a touchdown on every single possession in this game. If we get Ole Miss best fastball, they're not going to cover 26. They're going to cover 50 in this game. They really could score 70 points if they want. So I really don't know what to do. Maybe Mississippi State comes out, have some tricks up their sleeve for the Egg Bowl, able to sneak a few touchdowns. So I guess I would say over 61. Is there any weather in this game, Andy?
No, it's Ole Miss.
So I guess I would say over 61.5 or pass, or maybe Ole Miss team total over. You could just put over 61.5 for me. I don't see any path to Mississippi State making a single stop in the game. So, hey, does that mean they won't? No, maybe they figure it out. Maybe Jackson Dart lays an egg tonight. But yeah, I don't see how Mississippi State makes stops in this game.
Great pun. Yeah, I would love to say the whole speech that you were talking about, that this is like the Egg Bowl and it's a big game. Last year they had Will Rogers, who had been a part of this rivalry for a while. Now they have a freshman quarterback who, like we've said, he's had some good games, but his underlying numbers, they're not really that successful. Last week wasn't great for Mississippi State either. They were getting, 38-21, I think was the final in that game, but they probably could have lost by a lot more. If Ole Miss had won last week, I might have talked myself into Mississippi State, but now there's no, they have to win this game to even have a shot in any scenario of the playoff. And not only do they want to win this game, Lane Kiffin wants to blow the doors off.
I know.
Mississippi State. He doesn't care. Like, they don't like him. They thought they should have blew him out last year. They didn't. He's lost to this team before, I think, the one time, but this is just two teams that are very, very different, in very bad spots. There's no team down in Power 5 football more than Mississippi State. So I think this is going to be an ass kicking, good old fashioned ass kicking, as I said.
A dog walking? And
we already had a dog walking. Now we have an ass kicking.
There could be more than one dog walking. So last year, I watched the entire Egg Bowl last year. It was I watched the entire Egg Bowl last year. It was on Thanksgiving night. So I watched the whole game. I had Mississippi State plus 10.5, like I said. Actually, you know what? I think I had Mississippi State plus 10 and it pushed, if I'm being honest. But watched the whole game. Mississippi State's defense was playing well and making stops. I don't ever say like guarantee or anything like that. I almost think there's 0% chance of that happening in this game. I don't think Mississippi State's defense will make stops. So let's move on to the next one.
Good ball here.
This number feels high, Andy. I'm sorry.
I agree. I have Georgia Tech first half. If anybody's wondering, Georgia has covered one first half all year. It was a while ago, I believe. There's no team that's come out of this season struggling more early in games. You pretty much from week one, but last week is the one I want to focus on the most. Last week they played UMass, Georgia. This is at home. They played UMass, and their first half was one of the worst first halves I've ever seen them play. They were up by like 14, but they had given up 14 points in the first half. They gave up 21 overall to UMass. If you haven't watched UMass this year, that team sucks, and their quarterback was kind of the best thing they had, Tyson Pomachon. He didn't play in that game. They had a freshman quarterback playing. A freshman for UMass went into that game and put up 21 points.
Into Athens.
Yeah, that was really bad. But just for this one, I think Georgia Tech first half, the slow starts matter for Georgia. They've had a lot of those. This is a huge game for Georgia Tech. This means a lot more, I think, to Georgia Tech than it ever means to Georgia. But not only that, Georgia's looking ahead. They have the SEC championship next week. All you got to do is win the SEC championship and you're getting a bye. So I think that all those things coupled together, football-wise, obviously Georgia's significantly better. The talent is way better at Georgia. But guess what? Georgia's talent is usually a lot better than everybody they play, and they still seem to come out and have these slow starts and not be able to cover these first half numbers. So Georgia Tech first half would be the way to go for me. The only reason I did that's obviously the main reason I did first half. Georgia comes out slow. Also think Georgia in the second half, like they did against Tennessee, they could score 21 unanswered in the second half and win this game by 30. So I'm gonna take Georgia Tech first half and be good with it.
The last thing you said is kind of how I feel is so I lean towards Georgia Tech. No way I'm betting this, and there's for a couple of reasons. What you just said about Tennessee, I think there's a very strong possibility that's what we're about to see here is this game close midway through the third quarter, and Georgia still somehow winning by 24. Carson Beck's been much, much better at home. He has some solid-looking home-away splits this year. Georgia Tech's defense has actually been surprisingly good against the run. They've been surprisingly good stopping the run. Georgia hasn't really been running the ball all year. This is an offense that wants to throw the ball with Carson Beck. So you got a Georgia Tech defense that's going into Athens to play a Georgia offense that kind of plays into their defensive weakness. There's no way I could take this because I really think there's a path to Georgia scoring a lot of points. So also, what is even the quarterback situation at Georgia Tech right now? Is it going to be Haynes King? Or are they starting that freshman who looks pretty good, by the way? But so it's not that I think that's bad when they're using both. Haynes King's kind of more of a dual threat, and that freshman is the thrower. I don't think that's a bad plan. But here's the thing. The element of surprise is now gone. You had like the looming Haynes King injury where Georgia Tech was like, we didn't really know what kind of offense was coming out for Georgia Tech. In the Miami game the week before that, too, it was like Haynes King last minute announced he's going to play, but then he comes in and he's only running the ball, and the freshman's coming in to throw the ball. Like, the opponent didn't know that was coming. Like, Georgia Tech's had this element of surprise at quarterback for several weeks now. They don't really have that. Whatever they decide to do, Georgia's going to be ready for it because we've seen it in the last few weeks. So I can't actually place the bet. I actually have a feeling Georgia's going to blow them out. So this is a pass for me. Nebraska, Iowa. I bet this game. I'm not sure if I even like my bet, but I did get closing line value. So I suppose that's something. Not much of it. I think it moved a point. Let me check. Oh, no, I didn't. It's still at the same number. So cancel that. Did not get CLV. It did move up for a second, but it's back at 39.5. I have the over in this game. So Nebraska's defense, it's not that I think the Nebraska defense is a fade or anything like that. I will say they've looked absolutely terrible in their last 3 road games here. There should be a graphic for my over, right? Yep. So Nebraska's last 3 games on the road, they're allowing 35 points per game and almost 7 yards per play. 35 points per game allowed and almost 7 yards per play in their last 3 games on the road. So this Nebraska defense, although we know have talent, we know they have talent, and we have seen this Nebraska defense look pretty good a time or two throughout this year. But their last 3 games on the road have been a disaster. Now they're on the road at Kinnick. Iowa should be able to run the ball just fine in this game. In their home, check this out. We know this Iowa offense is extremely one-dimensional. They don't have a passing attack. We know all that. But Iowa at home this year, Caleb Johnson's just be too difficult to stop. So look at some of the Iowa home games. 330 rushing yards, 6.2 yards per carry against Wisconsin. It's not like they played Ball State. They did that on Wisconsin. 203 rushing yards, 5.2 yards per carry against Northwestern. That's probably a top 25 run defense there. 220 yards, 5.9 yards per carry against Washington, who has a tough defensive front. Well, maybe not so much, but Nebraska's defensive front just doesn't scare me like it did a couple months ago. I think Iowa's going to be able to run the ball just fine in this game. And on the other side, when it comes to Raiola, do I trust him to make throws and make plays here in Iowa? Not really, but I do think he's capable. He certainly played well against Wisconsin last week, and that Wisconsin has a good pass defense. Also, I, in addition to Raiola could give us some points, I also think Raiola could also give us a pick 6. So I think the variance on Raiola's side is super high. We know he's capable of winning this game. We just saw what he did to Wisconsin, but I think he's also capable of giving us 6 the other way. So I think this game gets up and over the total. Like I said, I bet it early in the week. Do I absolutely love it? No, but I did bet it.
I agree with that over as well, but I have Nebraska plus 3.5 as long as it's within a field goal.
Wait, so you're buying into Raiola now?
Yeah, I always do. I pretty much since day one, I've been buying into this team. It's worked a couple of times. Last week, it was a great one. They finally had that offensive outburst they've been waiting for. They finally put up some points. He also has seemingly been better against zone coverage, and that's all Iowa runs. The only issue with that, and I like those coverage splits that we have on our spreadsheet, but it's interesting because he's 32nd in passing grade against zone. Very good. He's been really good against zone. And all Iowa runs is zone, but they're first in zone coverage grade. Like they're really
they're
good.
awesome at it.
Yeah, it's tough to like actually see what's going to happen there. If he's comfortable throwing in zone, I think that's only helpful for him. But I also think that the fact that Iowa runs the offense the slow way, the crappy way, whatever you want, the old school way, I think that keeps it within a field goal the whole time. This series, it's played every year on Black Friday. It has been within one possession every year since 2018, and three times it's been 3 points. So like this series is always a close game. It's always within whatever, and I think Nebraska will always be within striking distance here. Could they win it? Maybe the floodgates open. They they were having a lot of trouble winning that game to get them to a bowl. They were like on a 10-game losing streak when going for a bowl game for their 6th win of the season. Maybe now that they finally did that, maybe the floodgates open. Maybe they'll finish with 7 wins. But just keeping it within a field goal is fine by me for Nebraska.
All right, let's move on to the next one. And the last college football game. And honestly, this is a straight pass. Who's playing quarterback for Utah? Is it Wilson or is it the other kid?
It's a night game, so we don't know yet. But it does not matter in my.
I think it does. In my opinion, it would only be UCF, but I'm scared to lay this number. It's a straight pass for me. So if you have anything to say,
yeah, I would lean UCF, but I'm scared. I'm scared about it too because Utah's been able to do nothing on offense since like September. They haven't won a game. These two teams combined have won 1 game since week 4, or combined have won 2 games since week 4. Each of them have won once. Like these two teams have been pretty much the exact same team. They've been unable to do anything. But UCF still kind of kept a strong rush attack. Since they benched KJ Jefferson, they've had a little bit more of a passing attack too. So I would side them to win this. When it was 9.5, I like it. I think it'll be a 10-point game for them. It's a night game. It's at the Bounce House. It's the last game of the year. Probably the last game of the Gus Malzahn era, maybe. So I think that it'll be
you think he's gone?
It's possible. There's no other openings though, so they could have their pick of who they want. So
True.
They could want to be open, but I would take them here. I think the only thing that scares me is I'm afraid they're going to do that, senior day crap when they put the guy in and put KJ Jefferson in. If I see KJ Jefferson tonight, I'm going to flip out. But if the other kid's the quarterback risk, I think that this team can cover this easily. So that's the only thing I'm worried about is if I see KJ Jefferson, because we know he's a small game merchant. Although technically this would be a small game now because Utah sucks. So
small game merchant. You could put UCF up for me. That'd be the only way to go. Clearly, this kid Dylan Risk is the man at quarterback for UCF, and at home against a Utah team that we know kind of sucks this year. But I'm a little scared. I don't know who's coming out at quarterback for Utah, and so I'm not betting this. No chance of betting it. Andy, you have an underdog pick 'em for us?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Yes, I do. All right. So I alluded to it earlier. Ashton Genty are higher than 182.5 rushing yards. I think that they're going to try to juice his Heisman stats. They only want to run the ball anyway. I do think Oregon State covers, but again,
I like that. I agree with that. To what you said about Genty, they are going to juice the shit out of his stuff.
They're going to juice those stats. And then Carson Beck higher than 262.5 passing yards. I have the first half for Georgia Tech, but he's been really good at home, but he's also been really good the last 2 games now. One of those games against UMass. But against a really good Tennessee defense, he was dicing them up, doing a great job. And then the other one goes hand in hand with that. Dylan Bell's a little banged up. Dylan Bell's been Georgia's best receiver this year. Arian Smith is the next guy up, in my opinion. So him getting higher than 44.5 kind of goes with Carson Beck. They're going to throw the ball. They have to throw the ball to win this game. So, yeah, I have those 2 higher.
All right. If you don't have an Underdog fantasy account, the free square today is, Prop Beaver?
It is Patrick Mahomes higher than a half total yard.
Patrick Mahomes higher than a half total yard. So if you sign up for Underdog using the promo code BET, B-E-T, you can use that in your first pick 'em. It's available to anybody in a state highlighted in yellow in this map. Promo code is BET, B-E-T.
3 letters.
Three letters. All right, we're going to move on to NFL. Andy will be back to talk college football in about 5 minutes. Would you like to join me on the screen, Prop Beaver?
Yes, I would.
Prop Beaver's sick, guys. So he's muscling through the illness right now.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Hit
winning
the
bets.
eyeball on Andy's screen behind you because you're like sitting in front of Andy right now.
No, I know. I'm gonna get this kid out of here. 1 second.
Get his ass out of here. We're talking real ball now. All right. So Prop Beaver's going to set the screen up and get the poll going. Obviously, as I'm sure you know, we got Raiders Chiefs today. If you saw the video I uploaded, there are a couple talking points on the Raiders offense side. So in terms of the Raider offense, in my opinion, you got to do this when it comes to the Raiders offense in this matchup. In one hand, you have 3 returning starters on the Raiders offensive line that I thought were coming back last week. I was wrong. They were practicing. They were listed as questionable. They didn't come back. All 3 are back. Left guard, center, right tackle, all back for the Raiders offensive line. So this Raiders offensive line gets a significant boost. That being said, even with a boost, are we expecting the Raiders to generate push here? On the road in Arrowhead against a Chiefs defensive front that's been amongst the best in the league in terms of staying on the line of scrimmage, in terms of limiting the run. So even with the Raiders offensive line getting a boost here, I just can't see them running the ball in this game. If they got these pieces back last week against Denver, who is a pretty good defense, if they were playing a number of other teams, I would say, guys, maybe the Raiders can run the ball in this game, but on the road in Arrowhead, the Chiefs might have the best run defense in the NFL this year. So despite getting the pieces back, I still don't know if I can count on the Raiders to run the ball, which means you got Aiden O'Connell on the road in Arrowhead. Now, I will say, O'Connell's a guy that's not going to be out of his element on the road in cold Arrowhead. I mean, he played in the Big Ten West, dude. He's from Purdue. You're talking going on the road against tough defenses in the cold. This dude played in the Big Ten West. He was going to Iowa. He was going to Michigan. He was going to Minnesota. He was going to Wisconsin. So it's not like Aiden O'Connell has no idea how to go on the road in the cold and play elite defenses. But in order to move the ball in this Chiefs defense, you have to throw the ball downfield. And all we've seen from Aiden O'Connell, I mean, we saw him play in the Steelers game earlier this year. It was just all underneath throws. Brock Bowers in the flats. Brock Bowers 4 yards underneath. Everything was underneath. You're not going to be able to do much against the Chiefs defense doing that. They're a top 10 defense against the short pass. You got to be able to throw the ball downfield. You have to at least have the threat of throwing the ball downfield. And based on what we've seen from Aiden O'Connell, I'm just not seeing it. So I really can't have any faith in the Raiders offensively here. And on the other side, I was really having trouble finding angles for the Chiefs offense. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball, even with Pacheco back. The Raiders have been so good against the run. The last 4 games, they're allowing like 3.3 yards per carry as a team. They're looking like one of the toughest run defenses in the NFL in the last 4 games. And this kind of thing happened last year, too. About halfway through the season, the Raiders became an elite run defense. Remember when Antonio Pierce took over? So I don't think it's crazy to think that the Raiders might be a top 10 run defense down the stretch. So I think the Chiefs might struggle to run the ball here. As far as the matchup for Mahomes, I really don't know. I mean, the Raiders blitz a lot. Mahomes is like, against the blitz. There's really nothing there. The Raiders run a lot of shallow coverage, not a ton of cover 4, not a ton of cover 6. Mahomes splits there, really nothing. He's got decent career history against the Raiders. He usually wins, but he doesn't put up the most monster stats. So here are my leans. Chiefs minus 13, Raiders team total under. You can get a 14.5, or at least last night you could. I don't have a bet on the game currently. That's how I'm feeling, though.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me to give my opinions on the game, it's a really shitty game. So that's my opinions on the game. If you want to prop in this game, we won some bets yesterday. That's a nice change of pace. And I plan on winning a third today. I really like this one. Aiden O'Connell over 210.5 pass yards. Now, my friend AOC, he hasn't lived up to the billing of the gunslinger he was coming out of Purdue. And as Kyle was alluding to, yeah, he's kind of been dinking and dunking in his limited action we saw this year, but a bit of that was with Luke Getsy in the beginning of the year. Luke Getsy, very conservative play caller. I'm not saying the play caller they have now is less conservative, but maybe we see a bit of him breaking out of his shell with the new play caller. We'll see that today. regardless, this Chiefs pass defense has seen a major fall off in production since cornerback 2, Jalen Watson, went down. That's been 5 games, and during that 5-game span, we've seen the last 4 or 5 quarterbacks that face them go over their pass yards mark. They've seen a 25-point increase in average passer rating during that span, and all 5 quarterbacks completed 20-plus passes. And speaking of completions, if we do some line reading, O'Connell's line for completions is set at 22.5. With just 17-plus completions in his career, short career, Aiden O'Connell, 7-1 to the over, averaging 243 pass yards per game. And I just don't simply see how the Raiders move the ball otherwise here. I mean, when the Raiders went into KC last year on Christmas Day and won their game, O'Connell only had 62 pass yards on 21 pass attempts. I mean, absolutely pathetic. But let's not forget, KC pass defense was, I think, top 3 in football at that point. And KC's rush defense was pathetic. The Raiders ran all over them with Zamir White. That isn't the case this year. I mean, the Raiders' rush offense is 31st in DVOA. Chiefs' rush defense has been as elite as they come. They're 6th in DVOA. And on the field this season, there's no L'Jarius Sneed. There's no Jalen Watson. And for Las Vegas, there is Brock Bowers, the perfect weapon to exploit the Chiefs' weakness defensively, which is defending the tight end position. So I like O'Connell to go over the yards mark here. And a game where he's an implied 13-point dog. I mean, the game script should be working in our favor.
I'm going to do a quick SGP because people... Did you see how close that was to hitting?
That was... Dude, I
It's
know.
crazy.
When he got that one touchdown, I'm almost like... obviously, I wanted my golf play to hit. So I was like, fuck overtime. But if my golf play wasn't going to hit and it was going to go to overtime, I'm like, well, Moore better get that second touchdown, man. Because
I know.
Yeah, we were close.
So I'm going to go with... Where's Xavier Worthy? I don't even see him. Receiving. Let me go to same game parlay. Sorry. Xavier Worthy. I'm going to go Xavier Worthy. Receiving yards. Where's alt receiving? Sorry, I don't do the player props very often.
Oh, good.
Xavier Worthy. Where the heck is the freaking... One sec. Xavier Worthy, alt receiving yards. Found it. Let's go Xavier Worthy, 100 receiving yards.
Okay, wow.
We'll go... Where's...
Mahomes,
Dude,
2+
can you do
TDs.
alt team totals?
Yeah, I mean, what book are you on?
Okay, ready? First half, Raiders total points under 6.5. All right, that's the bet. Worthy, 100 plus receiving yards. Raiders first half team total under 6.5, and that pays plus 21.96.
Okay. What book is this on?
I just built that on FanDuel.
All right.
So let's get that on the screen. Raiders first half team total under 6.5. Worthy 100 plus receiving yards. Plus
that'll
21.96.
That'll be our Black
This isn't going to hit.
Friday SGP.
Black Friday SGP. There you go.
Sponsored by Amazon.
For those, it's not sponsored by Amazon. But if Amazon's listening, my email's open.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do college basketball, which means I'm out of here. Enjoy your Friday. Hit me up with the Discord if you need me. Submit your picks for the league. You got 42 minutes to submit your picks for the league if you're in it. So, all right.
Alrighty, let's get these guys on the screen. Best of luck today, everybody. Y'all know what the vibe is. Stay goated. All right. No, Kyle's not really a big drinker these days.
I'm just trying to stick up for everybody else that loves a good pie. Okay, you know.
Why isn't Andy's? There we go.
Sticking up for the pie eaters of America is crazy.
All right.
Kyle always makes fun of the way I eat. So,
Well,
good afternoon. It is afternoon in the East Coast, so that's good. Andy, how was your Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it was great. As I said, 2 dinners, very fat, feel fat. Not going to eat today.
That sucks. Well, let's get into this. Curious to hear your thoughts on this game because I think I still feel very confident in my pick. I got Pitt at +3.5. You can get them at +5 now. So I will say the only thing that doesn't really bother me too much is that CLV has meant absolutely nothing this college basketball season. So it's really hard for me to be like, oh my God, I lost CLV. What am I going to do? But I am curious to hear your thoughts on this one because I did really like Pitt.
Yeah, you got 2 slower pace teams, about average, which you would normal basketball pace. Neither runs really fast, neither runs really slow. So I think that helps. Team that shoots significantly more 2-pointers and threes is Pitt. And then you have Ohio State, who's only shooting threes. But again, Pitt has been a good defensive team for years now, so I don't expect that. So I have the under. I think that the under. I've been pretty good with unders. Now, a lot of the one caveat to that is a couple of them been screwed by overtime, but the one caveat has been those have been mostly neutrals. This is not a neutral site. This is a game at Columbus. This is a home. So I do think Ohio State's going to be able to shoot. I don't think Pitt's going to be nearly as good offensively. Pitt, you just went, well, you don't think Ohio State's going to make threes?
I think that they have major regression coming. They're one of the hottest teams in the country with three point luck this year. They're almost averaging almost 0.6 points per possession or on their threes. So I don't feel like they're going to shoot like that forever. And I also think that it shows that with their ability to not be able to shoot on the free throw line, that some of that 3-point luck is a little bit lucky.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Which helps your under.
I hope they don't. Yeah. The only problem is whenever a team goes cold, it seems to be it hints at overtime every time for me. I mean, yesterday was ridiculous too with the Minnesota game, but that's neither here nor there. There's a height advantage for Pitt as well, so the team that shoots more 2-pointers should have more possessions in this game by rebound. So yeah, I like Pitt. I like the under here. If I was leaning aside, I'd probably say Pitt. I really like this Pitt team. They are missing one of their top 5 scorers. He left the game against Wisconsin, and their offense scored more points, but clearly that was because there was more possessions. They did not look nearly the same on offense when he left the game. They were winning at that point. They lost. They were also playing a Wisconsin team who's much better on offense than I think Ohio State will be. So plus a faster pace. So, I like the under, and I would lean Pitt especially at 5. If it keeps going up, I mean, yeah, Pitt.
It looks like it went to 5.5. It's back down to 5 now. It just depends on how you look at it. But yeah, I agree. Do I like the fact that Davian Dunn is out? No, but also in the last 2 games against LSU and Wisconsin, I don't think that Ohio State looked really bad against either one of those. I think that Wisconsin's a lot better than a lot of people give them credit for, or at least preseason wise. And Dunn played a combined 14 minutes in those games and gave us 2 points. So I don't think that which even adds more to Andy's under. I don't think that you don't have to worry about the offense losing too much as far as Pittsburgh's concerned. But for me, you have, like I just talked about with Andy, I said you have an Ohio State team that has been very good to start the year, but is by far, if not one of the luckiest teams in the country as far as their 3-point luck is concerned. Like I said, 0.6 points per possession added. You do that for 4 or 5 possessions. I mean, that's 3 or 4 points. So I think that it's going to be. I maybe at home it doesn't come into play today, and maybe I'm just shit out of luck. But at the same time, we're getting this Pitt team that, like I talked about, without Dunn, but doesn't rely on the 3-point ball. One of the best teams shooting inside their top 10 in 2-point field goal percentage. They're one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country. Ohio State not even shooting 68% as a team from the field, from the free throw line. Not to mention, like I talked about, Ohio State, the 4th best team shooting the 3 ball in the country right now. Well, guess what? Pitt's doing a very, very good job defending the 3 ball as well. Pitt. And like Andy touched on as well, the height issue for me is really, really big too. So I do think they're going to be having hands in the face with Ohio State and all of these deep shots. So I'm more than comfortable with Pitt 3.5. I'm surprised to see this line go this way. I guess maybe because Ohio State's at home. But like I said, I don't really feel like I've seen enough from Ohio State to really justify them being this big of a favorite, even though they are at home. They had one really good game against a Texas team that I think is poorly coached and is not that good. And then they played a somewhat decent team in Texas A&M and they got blown out. So obviously the Texas A&M game was on the road, so it's not necessarily the same environment. But when you have a team that's smaller, can't rebound as well, and I think that Pitt's is just as good as a shooting team, I'll more than happy take the points here with the Pittsburgh Panthers. So Next game up, Boomer Sooner. Shout out Boomer Sooner coming through yesterday. And Louisville. Everybody's new favorite team, the Louisville Cardinals. Everybody loves them. Some Pat Kelsey, that huge win versus West Virginia yesterday. Andy, are you going right back to your boys and Pat Kelsey?
Oh, no. This is a big fade spot for me. They are everyone's, like you just said, everybody's favorite team. They were hitting shots against Indiana. They started a little slow yesterday because they weren't hitting shots. That's how they look when they can't hit their threes. They're clearly not that good of a team. I mean, but that you could say that about anybody who shoots threes. But it was very clear that game against Indiana was a lot of they just got roasting hot from three. Now, this is a one yesterday. I don't necessarily think West Virginia is that good of a team. I think West Virginia caught fire against Gonzaga. Gonzaga struggled. Gonzaga in Atlantis has struggled to defend the three a lot. That's weird. I don't usually see that from them, but they'll figure that out.
Pedigree, baby.
But yeah, this is a perfect fade spot for me. Louisville is coming off two huge wins in a row that are going to carry them through March. And Oklahoma, they're also coming off of those, but Oklahoma they're being completely disrespected here. I think they're the better team, honestly. I know Louisville is catching everybody's hearts, but Oklahoma, they defend the three well. That's all Louisville wants to do. Now, if you can get inside on Oklahoma, you can have some success. They're not very good at defending inside the three-point line, but all you have to do is defend the three against Louisville, and I believe they'll be able to do that. So I think it would be a good defensive matchup for Oklahoma, and obviously we know their offense will be fine. I mean, they've been really good shooting so far this year, so I think they'll be successful. A neutral site, so an under would be a good look, but I didn't bet that. I would bet Oklahoma here +3.
Yeah, this line keeps on going up, which is why I haven't bet it. I kind of want to see where it lands, but you can get Oklahoma +3.5 now, pretty much across the board. And for me, I know I'm probably a little bit of a broken record, but guard play, and I'm not the biggest Chucky Hepburn supporter, but his ability to turn the ball over and Jeremiah Fears' ability not to keep the ball does concern me a little bit, enough to kind of keep me off of Oklahoma is actually betting them. But like Andy touched on, I think that you've seen the absolute best you're going to see from Louisville the last couple nights. That doesn't mean that it can't happen again here tonight, but I think that this Oklahoma team, like Andy said, is really undervalued. They're very solid. Louisville, one of the best 2-point shooting teams in the country, one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the country. Oklahoma's not going to let them shoot a whole bunch of threes here tonight. They're very good at defending that. So maybe Louisville gets inside a little bit on Oklahoma, but again, I think this is going to be a close game. I think obviously it's a 3.5 or 3 now. It's moving up. It started at 2, and you have an Oklahoma team that can shoot their free throws as well. One thing that Louisville will get on some teams is that their pace is up there. They're one of the faster paced teams in the country, but Oklahoma's been playing at a pretty fast pace as well. I lean Oklahoma here. I don't put too much stock into the Arizona win. I don't know if Arizona is that good, to be dead honest with you guys. But back-to-back Providence and Arizona with a couple steps up in class, I think this sets them up well against this Louisville team. Because honestly, I don't think that Louisville and Arizona are like super comparable, but in the styles in which they play, they kind of are. And I think that Oklahoma having a lot of success against Arizona like that yesterday helps them a lot today. Yeah. So Boomer Sooner, baby. Next game up. You already know what this is, boys. Guard play. Don't buy into the fact that Chris Beard has some success against Purdue in his life. Andy, everybody already knows I'm a boiler up guy. What are your thoughts on this one?
I'm also, and this is me fading the SEC again. Credit to Ole Miss. They played the exact opposite of how I expected them to play. They out-rebounded a team that was significantly taller than them. They were able to make some shots. They didn't shoot crazy, but they made them when they mattered, right? Took the game to overtime, and then they just completely wiped them out in overtime. Another big win for the SEC. That's great. Oklahoma also had one yesterday. Great. I think this is where it comes to an end. We've seen Purdue already beat a pretty good SEC team in Alabama. Purdue just did this yesterday. I wouldn't say that Ole Miss is like NC State in the fact that they haven't played anybody. They did just play BYU, but before that, they hadn't really played anybody. And it's a step up when you're now playing Purdue, a Big Ten team with a lot of success, who looked good, who looks like they're going to be very good. The rebounding issue I mean, I would have said they would still have the rebounding advantage, but I will give Ole Miss credit. They did a great job yesterday, and I don't know that that's going to be as big of an issue as I thought it was going to be. But I mean, it's just I think they're just going to outclass them. The guards are way better. They're going to shoot well. So yeah, I'm all over Purdue here. I don't get the line. I don't understand it. I thought it was when I looked at the game, when I was looking at it, I thought it was going to be like 7 or 8. I thought that was going to be it, and I was gonna be like, oh, maybe Ole Miss would be sneaky there. When it keeps going lower, I don't know what people see in Ole Miss. I think they did great yesterday, but they just played an overtime game with a really tough team. I don't necessarily think that bodes well for them, especially on a neutral floor. So I'm going to be on Purdue.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I played Purdue at 4.5. I know the number's way down from there. I really don't care. I 100% agree with you. I thought that this line was going to move up as well. I just reading in some of like the notes from like the beat writers and stuff like that. Ole Miss really struggled against the post, and now you have a guy with Purdue and TKR that's what 7-2 or something like that, 7-1, whatever, doesn't matter. A big giant in there, and if they're going to have to go help him, and that's just going to give guys like Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer time to create it, kicking it out. So I just don't understand. I guess I just don't understand what the thought is with Mississippi State if they're just going to be able to play defense like they did last night. I don't know. But again, keep in mind that this Purdue team is not only very good, but they continue to test themselves. I've talked about it the last 3 times I've talked about them on this show. Yale, number 97, number 8, Alabama, number 10, Marquette, number 59, NC State, number 54, Marshall. Those are the teams they're playing. They continue to play either decent teams or teams that are not super far stepped down in competition. If you take a look at what Ole Miss has seen, 317 LIU, 224 Grambling State, 198 South Alabama, 280 Oral Roberts. BYU obviously was a great win, but that game could have went either way. They could have lost that game. BYU had an absolutely disastrous last 10 minutes of that game. If BYU just plays somewhat regularly and just doesn't play like an ass of themselves for the last 10 minutes of that game, trust me, I was on BYU. I know how it feels. Ole Miss wouldn't even be playing in this game here today. So I got the worst of the number. I do not care. I made this line Purdue -7, and I'm very confident in that number. So Purdue and St. Mary's are 2 teams that I feel like I have a very, very good number on. So we'll see what happens, but there's no question for me. It's Purdue. Next game, Beaver. NC. Go ahead, Beaver. Or go ahead, Andy. Do you have any thoughts on this one? Because this one's like a
This one is like an I was weirded out by that. This is a 2 teams that run very fast paces but do opposite things, which is very, very weird. NC State's a fast-paced team that shoots really only 2-pointers. They're in point distribution, they're 8th in 2-point percentage.
Isn't that crazy to see like 360 and then 8th?
I don't understand how that works. I don't know. I don't know what
I.
running there, but a fast-paced team that shoots 2s doesn't make sense to me. And then on the other side, you have a fast-paced team that only shoots 3s, which makes more sense to me. Kind of bodes well for an under, in my opinion, because if BYU's not hitting 3s, I think it'll be very low. But I would lean BYU. I think BYU's going to hit their shots. They are coming off, like you said, disastrous end to the game, a game that would have really carried them well coming down the stretch throughout the season. And they blew it. I think that Ole Miss win would have been really good for them because I think Ole Miss is going to be pretty good. NC State, they kind of just got outclassed. We've seen it. That was what we expected them to do against Purdue. They hadn't played anybody. They'd played a couple of closer games, I think, against their bad teams too. But then they went to play Purdue, and it was very clear they were just nowhere near as good. I think it's gonna be similar today. They're gonna get out there. The height that BYU has is significant. They're gonna have that height advantage against pretty much anybody. And it's here again. It's not quite as bad, although it's still pretty bad. BYU is 13th in height. NC State's 231st, so it is pretty significant, but it was worse yesterday, and Ole Miss still out-rebounded them. I think BYU will just play better completely today after that game. They were playing somewhat well in the first half, too, so I expected better. But, yeah, I think that they'll bounce back, and NC State's just – they're not at this level. I don't necessarily think NC State's like a top 5 team in the ACC. I don't think that they're competing with these other conferences. Like the Big 12 and SEC probably each have 13 teams that are better than NC State. And that's saying something because NC State may be a top 10 team in the ACC, but they're clearly not competitive compared to these teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're competitive with these teams either. I think that yesterday you saw I think what you saw against the NC State with NC State against Purdue is that they were on a neutral. Things were kind of getting everything felt out, and then once that second half started with Purdue, it was never a game. They run out. They got in the first 10 minutes. They had a 20-8 run, and then Purdue never really looked back from there. And now you're getting, as far as NC State's concerned, now you're getting a team in BYU that obviously Andy talked about. The height is much bigger as well. But I just don't see NC State, not if they're a team that can't shoot, especially from three, as Andy talked about, and against a BYU team that I guess is really pretty damn good defensively inside. Maybe it's because of their height, but either way, I just have a hard time believing that NC State is able to cover this number. So I did actually, now that I look at it, I did BYU and St. Mary's money line parlay at like plus 110. Each of them are like a 4 or 5 point favorite. So you don't have to type that, Beaver, but I would lean BYU here. The only thing that bothers me about BYU is they're a terrible free throw shooting team. And especially when you get around that, 5 to 7, 5.5, 7 number, that's when free throws start to at least make me want to pay attention a little bit more. So I didn't want to have to worry about that if that game does slow down. But yeah, I do think that BYU wins for sure. Next game up, another game where I'm pretty set in my position. I'm really curious to see where you are. I'm on West Virginia. I got 6.5, and before anybody tries to tell me they've played 2 days in a row and blah, 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 I don't really put too much stock into that, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
People are going to laugh at me for mine. I have a money line parlay. I put Arizona with Florida today. I think they're both going to win. When it comes to the spread, I'd probably lean West Virginia. Well, Arizona has been very disappointing in their start here. They did blow out Davidson, but they were losing at halftime of that game. I was very nervous. I had Arizona that day.
I had Arizona like minus 9.5 or something.
Yeah, they were winning that one. They wound up winning it pretty comfortably, but they were scaring everybody up. And then, we're not doing the Florida game, nor should we. Wake Forest is Wichita State is nowhere near the class of Florida. I'm just saying, I think Florida is going to blow them out the gym today. But for Arizona, I think they've been a little bit disappointing down here. But I think West Virginia, it all comes down to hitting shots, and I think Arizona will be fine defensively to stop them. The pace advantage also is there. Arizona runs really fast. West Virginia, their shooters might get tired out. I know you don't agree with the 2 days back-to-back thing, but Arizona was able to rest their guys for most of the end of the second half of that Davidson game. Like the last 10 minutes, they didn't have to play their guys. The guys are a little bit more rested. West Virginia had an overtime game back-to-back days now. So by the end of the game, I think they'll have heavy legs, won't hit their shots. Will they have a lead at that point to cover this number if they still lose? Maybe, but I just feel comfortable in the idea that Arizona is going to win the game, bounce back from a loss they probably shouldn't have had. So, yeah, I think Arizona and Florida both win today. It's minus 123. I know it's not very juicy, but I don't see a way either of them lose. So.
I wouldn't argue with you that Arizona probably wins this game, but I would say that if anybody's laying multiple possessions with this Arizona team, you better be pretty damn sure about it. Like I said, I played Arizona against Davidson, and like Andy touched about, it was really, really rocky the first half of that game. They ended up winning by like 30, but I understand that West Virginia's played 2 straight games and in OT, but at the same time, I do still feel like these guys are kids, and I don't really. In Arizona had to play 2 games as well, and it's not like Arizona's game against Oklahoma was an absolute cakewalk. So for me, it's just that you have a team in West Virginia that I feel like can match up with Arizona. West Virginia isn't really going to be running a whole bunch, but at the same time, West Virginia's seen a couple teams in Louisville and Gonzaga, both teams that run a pretty damn fast pace. Pittsburgh is the other team that's been really good that they've seen. They don't really run that fast, but it's not like West Virginia's not playing good teams either. I mean, West Virginia, the 68th strongest schedule in the country right now, and against an Arizona team that's also been very tested. They're number 34, but I feel like West Virginia can match up with them size-wise. I feel like West Virginia is the much better shooting team as a team, especially from deep. And if you have guys like Caleb Love and Jaden Bradley and KJ Lewis throwing up shots and missing and not being on, I think this is going to be, I think we're going to see something very similar to what we saw against Gonzaga with West Virginia, where they're just kind of keeping it in the game. The guards are keeping them in the game, and they're being able to shoot shots. Again, I understand that they've been on played overtime games back-to-back nights. But at the same time, Arizona Arizona is one of the worst teams in the country defending the 3-ball. I think that West Virginia has been very impressive, and I'm not just going to write them off because they've played 2 overtime games. So I just thought that 6.5 was too many against an Arizona team that I'm at a point where I love Tommy Lloyd. I'm just at a point where I don't know if they're that good. I think that they're a decent basketball team. I think they have some work to do for sure, but they've lost 3 of their last 4 games. And yes, all those teams have been better than Oklahoma, but they're not head and shoulders better than Oklahoma. I mean, sure, Duke is, but Wisconsin's starting to look a lot better. But Wisconsin and Oklahoma, I don't think are just huge step ups in class from West Virginia. So especially the way that Devise is playing right now, I'm more than comfortable taking my 6.5 with the West Virginia for sure. Is that all of them?
That is all of them. And there is no community parlay today. I'm sick as a dog, and I would like to get home and sleep. So no community parlay. I'd like to thank all of you who have watched and supported the past 2 days. May you have a blessed Black Friday. Don't go too crazy with your shopping. Stay goated. We'll see you on the midnight stream. And if there's not a midnight stream, we'll see you on tomorrow's stream.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Kyle is going live at 4 p.m., he just told me, to do some NBA with Chris and Ski. So if you are available later, he'll be live at 4. So see you then. Stay goated.